So the year is 1993. We'd just done Loretta Lynns the year before in 92 and had took 14th, national number 14 at Loretta Lynns. So for this year, 93, I get to hold a national number and get to run the number 14 for this year, and that there will be as an amateur national number. So anyway, before this here, I did Loretta Lynns on a 125, even though that was in the vet class. Only 125 in there. All the others were 250s and 500s. So anyway, 93 comes around, and I didn't know this was going to happen, but it was at Christmas time. So the new bikes come out around Thanksgiving, and I did not get a new bike. I still had my 125. So Christmas rolls around, and I get up Christmas morning, and we got a shed out from the house. It's a little shed where we got some cats and that's where they stay. There's a little pet door they can go in and out of. So I get up in the morning, Christmas morning, and I walk up there to feed the cats, and I open the door to walk in, and there sits a brand new YZ 250, a 93 250. And here it had been planned out. Every year at Christmas Eve, we've always had a get-together here at our house where family members and all of them come over, and and we just had a get-together every Christmas Eve. We still do it yet today. So anyway, Shirley had it planned out with Johnny Gallagher. That she made the arrangements kind of, and her and Johnny was in on it together. So Johnny brought the bike over that evening while we were having that get-together, figuring that I wouldn't hear any commotion or whatever. He parked down the driveway, brought the bike over, and he pushed it back up and put it there in the shed and left. I never knew he was here, but that's how the bike got here, is Johnny had brought it over and put it in the shed so that when I walked in the morning there would be a brand new bike, a new 250. So race year is going to start out, and I got a 250 now, so I decided, okay, I'm going to do Loretta Lynns again. I'm going to go back, do the vet class again, but this year I'll be on a 250. So we end up going to the area qualifiers, make it through there. Don't even remember where they were at that year. I think maybe it was Steel City, not positive. Your areas is usually somewhat fairly local that you can go to within several hour drive. And then your regional, there is only 8 regionals in the whole United States, so then you're going to have to drive for the regional wherever it's at. And usually then it'll be, the regional is made up of a number of the districts or from areas that will come together at regionals. So anyway, make it through my area qualifier and qualify for the regional. So this next one will be, it's the only picture I have. And this here would be, I'll try and capture this shot. This was at the regional. So we go to the regional. It's me and Shirley's dad goes along. So the two of us travel out to it's a place called, the track's name was Walden Playboys. Don't remember the town, but I know it was up above Binghamton, New York. Upstate New York, somewhere up in there. I know we went up through like up around Binghamton, Unadilla, up through that area. You know, there's a national track at Unadilla, and I know it's kind of up in above there somewhere. So anyway, we go up there to the regional, and at this track, the picture you're seeing here, it's one of the pictures I took just because it was so sketchy. This here was a pretty steep downhill, the picture you're looking at. You're looking at the very top. There was a jump right at the very top, a triple, where you were coming off that and tripling downhill. So you're actually, the lower jump when you're coming off the top, you know, on a bike's view as you're coming up to the takeoff, you couldn't see down there. All you see is the sort of the sky dropping away because the hill's dropping away. And clear out there is the third of the triple downhill. And it was like if you come up short, you were just going to cartwheel it down this hill. It was kind of a pretty sketchy jump in that. So tried capturing a view of it there on the when I took this photo, but that is one of the photos, or about the only photo I got really from up there at Walden's Playboys. That was the regional for Loretta Lynns. Ended up qualifying, made it through the regionals and qualified for Loretta Lynns again. So this here would be 1993. Qualify for the vet class for the second year in a row. So we're going to Loretta Lynns. So just going to put up this photo here. This here's just another shot of my bike, me and Shirley, in this photo here. And across the road from where we lived, it was my father-in-law's property. There's I had a practice track over there. And I'm going to pause 1 second. Grab. So this photo is taken over right in front of the old barn by the practice track. I'd built, it was kind of a small outdoor tracks, a little bit supercross style, more jumps, some tabletop stuff like that. But it was a way I could just practice from right here at home, go right across the road. Had a smaller practice track there in the field and that. So I used to go over there and ride quite a bit. So that was just a photo from over there. This is also same practice track photos. That was from over there on that same bike and that. This one here would have been of over there as well. I believe you can see one of the tree trucks in the background, backed up to there, chip blocks on it. Anyway, this here would be my brother-in-law Ed Faust, and Justin Faust would be my nephew when he was just a young kid at that time. That would have been 1993. They were up there at my in-laws and just come out. So that's Justin being sat on my bike. Just another shot there. You can see the old barn. There's an old bathtub sitting there and that. There's sort of a little road area there going out to where the practice track was. Also my 93 250. And we'll put up one more here. This here was Justin again, sitting on the bike. So we make it through the regionals for Loretta Lynns. And I know we're doing other races that year. I'm not sure what all races. I wasn't recording results, anything like that. So the highlights really that year then was just running the areas for area and regional for Loretta Lynns. So later then in the year, Loretta Lynns is always in August. At that time, I still had the tree service running it, and the tree service was pretty much took up all your time. I was finding it very hard to come up with the time to, you know, do your workout schedule and ride and all that there, and working at the tree service. I had taken some time the year before for doing this, and really the tree service was consuming most all my time from early morning till late at night. So I had pretty limited time, and that year was apparently really busy. So I just decided I was going to pull out and not do Loretta Lynns. So even though I qualified for it and that, I just sent in my letter of withdrawal or whatever for that and didn't do it. Figured I'd already done it the year before, kind of, that was sort of on my bucket list of things to do. So I was just going to withdraw and not do it. So that would be pretty much the end of my Loretta Lynns racing for there. So then another story to go along with this, and I believe it was this year in '93. I mean, Johnny was around. He was still trying to do the, Johnny was running pro at the time, doing some of the pro nationals, things like that. And me and him would still go to some of the different races and that and race. You know, a lot of your local tracks and that, we were hitting them, doing them. So he was still around racing in that, but I believe it was the end of '93, somewhere in there. Craig Martin, who used to work for John Ayres there when it was J&J Cycles at Grove City. Then Craig had moved over to Mercer, also had there. And Johnny had always got his bikes there, knew Craig pretty well. Craig was kind of all raced together, rode together and that at different times and that. But Johnny had kept in touch with Craig after Craig closed J&J. He had actually moved to California and worked for Team Kawasaki. I believe Craig primarily went for Team Green, which would be their amateur support side, and was working for them at Team Green there. But I do know that he did do some of the pro nationals and that as well, because last time I remember seeing Craig then was at Steel City. Maybe it was somewhere around this year. I remember me and Don Harry went down, and it was just before the four-strokes come into really being popular, because I remember there at Steel City talking to Craig, whatever year this was, and he was saying about how like major changes was coming. And I think it was primarily from the government was somewhat forcing this because of emissions and all that, like California was going to kind of ban two-stroke engines and that. So the four-strokes were starting to come on, and this was just at the very beginning. So whatever year that was probably the last time I had seen Craig. Anyway, up to this point then, apparently, don't know when, but Johnny used to talk to Craig at different times and that, you know, just over the phone and that. And Craig had told Johnny about Ty Davis was needing a mechanic. Ty was he was factory Kawasaki rider, and Ty had, I believe he was the not sure which year it was, probably around 90, somewhere in there maybe. Ty had won the #1 plate in the Supercross West series out there, just to give you an idea who Ty was. He raced motocross in that, but now at this point in time, Ty was somewhat still raced motocross. Somebody who was really getting big into off-road, doing like your Hare and Hound, the Baja, desert racing, stuff like that. So, again, I'm guessing on these years because I don't got it wrote down, but I know it was somewhere around here. So Johnny decides, okay, he had an auto repair shop over by Sandy Lake, and kind of his beginning years really of the shop. So he decides he's closing up the shop. He moves to California, and he becomes a mechanic then for Ty Davis. Where then I know at that time they were doing, because me and Johnny would still call back and forth, talk and that. And they were doing like the Baja 500 and the Baja 1000 down in Mexico. So they would go down, you know, they might be there go down prior to pre-run that course and stuff. And I know Johnny had talked, he really did not like Mexico down there at all. He didn't like the environment of it. It's, I guess, a little bit sketchy down there in the way with your local people and that. You can be robbed. The box truck can be pulled over where their local cops will make you empty it out and search everything. Pull everything out, search it. Just stuff like that went on. But he'd always said they'd always carry a bunch of like stickers and hats and shirts and stuff like that there that, you know, if they got stopped, then they would usually pass them out. And it was sort of like bought favoritism, just with little items and that. But they would do stuff like that there. So anyway, Johnny's working for Ty out there, and actually some of my riding gear and that I still got it yet today was Ty's. I mean, Johnny was as a factory rider, Ty would get all kinds of stuff from the different companies and that. And for whatever reason, if they weren't going to use it, and apparently me and Ty were wearing the same size clothing and that, so, and I didn't ride Kawasaki, I was riding Yamaha, so I couldn't use any bike parts, stuff like that. But so Johnny would pack up stuff that they were essentially throwing out and ship it back. So that's how I ended up with some of Ty's race gear stuff and that I was using. So that goes on, and prior to, I'm going to go over to some photos now from that year, earlier in the year, when Johnny was still back around here and we were doing a little traveling and that together. So this here would have been from the Highpoint Pro National. And I always kept this photo because it was kind of unique in that. So me and Johnny go down, he's doing the Pro National there at Highpoint. And I must have been doing the amateur event, which would have been the prior day of the pros running. So, and we end up, we're pitted right next to Team Yamaha, their factory truck and that. So I'd always kept this, that's why my bike's here right there. We're pitted right next to factory Yamaha. So the bike with the yellow background here, that's my bike. So I have the amateur national number, yellow background, number 14. And that year, not sure who it was, this here would have been the pro class for Team Yamaha Pro Team, was also number 14. Kind of just ironic. And kind of almost in the same shot, the bikes together. So you had your Pro National number 14 and the Amateur National 14, which would have been my bike for there. That year on Team Yamaha, I don't really know who the number 14 was in the pro ranks. I think that might be Brian Loomis as the mechanic working on it, but I know that Bradshaw, the bike closest to us here, that there was Bradshaw's bike, Damon Bradshaw. He had the number 1 plate. I believe that was for the 250. The guy right there in the white shorts, that's Jeff Emming. So I know one of the other 2 bikes in this photo here would be Emming's, but I don't think the 14 was Emming's. I'm not sure what his number was that year, but so I'm not sure who held the number 14 for Team Yamaha factory team that year. But anyway, just kind of unique photos there. And also another little thing with that, when I did look through the vault, looking up some of the records and that from that year, I see in one of the prior videos that I had mentioned, probably back in 1982 or 83, I had met up with the guy Ray Somo. I called him Somo, his name might have been Somino or whatever, at a regional for Loretta Lynns. So, and raced against him down there. We were both running the same class. That would have been, say, in 83. I'll just say it was 83. Now we're up to 93. And I did see in the vault the records that day at Highpoint, Ray Somo, now he's running 250 Pro class, and he took a 14th overall there at Highpoint that day. So just kind of unique, the number 14th. Ray Somo takes 14th place overall that day. Don't know who was running the Yamaha National Pro number 14, and I had the Amateur National 14. I do know Somo was running a Yamaha at that time. I've seen that also in the records, but I don't think he was holding a factory ride there with Yamaha, so I don't think that was his bike. This would have just been another shot there. I believe the 593 was, I believe that's Robbie Renard. This might have been his first pro race ever. He was just coming out of the amateur ranks as well. And I believe this was his very first pro race on a 125. Robbie Renard was touted to be kind of like one of the next big up-and-comers. But in the end, he had some fair results, but don't know how he really ever ended up overall in that. Not sure who this is or why I even took the picture. This here's off the back of, this here must have been Team Suzuki. I'm guessing it was somebody that come from overseas or whatever, may have been over here, because they're running a number 111. So it's probably a riding for Team Suzuki, but I'm guessing it was a rider from another country that maybe just come over, and they do that occasionally. Somebody will come over from, Europe or Germany or one of them countries, and they might just be here for a few races. So not sure who that was in that picture. This here would have also been 93 there at Highpoint. Jeff Stanton. I believe Stanton won the 500 national title, number 1 in 92, so that's why he's running the number 1 plate. I'm pretty certain that's Jeff right there with his back to us. Factory Honda at the time. So just a few photos from that year. This would have been probably early spring, my new bike. I believe there's still a little bit of snow on the ground, maybe in the background there. So that would have been spring of 93. There you can see the little shed out in the background. That's where the cats stay. That's where I found my new bike. This bike Christmas morning was out in that shed. Yes, I'm just seeing a note here as well. That was in 1990 that Ty Davis was the, he won first overall in the Supercross West Series. So that was that year that Ty had done that. So that was kind of the conclusion of 93. Not a whole lot, kind of a shorter abbreviated year of events and things going on, and that was partly due to just with the tree service. Just really didn't have the time. It was just occupying all my time in that, so I really just didn't have quite the time necessary to do the training and all that for the racing. So I'll pick up the next one, and the next ones will be, now I'm going to be somewhat transitioning out of motocross and going into what we'll call like the GNCC years, which is a whole different series and type of racing, somewhat related to motocross, but just a different style of racing in that. So the next ones are going to be picking up will be doing the GNCCs and some hare scrambles, stuff like that there. So that will conclude it for the 1993 year.